everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Linux Guy. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Apt Package Manager as well as the Pop Shop for Pop OS users. That's what I'm using. It's my daily driver for Linux, and it's usually what I recommend to people starting out on Linux as well. Newbies to Linux a lot of times can be intimidated by this window right here. Now, this is a terminal emulator, and I use it for all kinds of stuff. That's great and all, but there's nice graphical tools that a lot of people would prefer to use. That's fine. What people find themselves using this the most for, though, is updates. A lot of times people will end up not enjoying to do updates through the Pop Shop or the Ubuntu Software Center or the GNOME software thing. I don't remember what it's called. They find it clunky, and it's just not the way they'd prefer to do things. And so they go to the terminal. There's a lot of reasons you may want to do this. One of the biggest ones is there's actually different things that happen when you run updates from the graphical interface. And when you do them from the command line, you have more control over it. And you can also see printouts when there's errors. I'm on Pop OS 20.10, as you can see here. On Pop OS, there are basically three major things that you need to know about. But I'm going to talk about four, because technically there's four, but one of them is really more of an Ubuntu thing. And the rest are what Pop OS usually does. So the three main ones are going to be Flatpaks, updates, and upgrades. So the first one you want to know is Sudo Apt Upgrade. Now you'll see this in forums and things all over the place. Well, what does it do? So if we run this, it's going to go ahead and check our repositories. It will fill any critical security holes. But other than that, it just makes sure all of your repositories are up to date. This is necessary, especially when you're going to install software, because it helps your computer know what software is actually available to it before you go ahead and install said software. This is really important too if you want to install a piece of software and you didn't do an update first. Then if you go to install it, you may install an old version, and then you'll have to update it anyway. If you had gone ahead and done the update, you would have gotten the upgraded version of the software. Now you'll see right here, it says 11 packages can be upgraded. So this brings us to the next thing. And this is the upgrade. So to do this, we would do Sudo Apt Upgrade. Now you can automate this process also by adding a space -y. I'm not going to do that this time because I don't want to automate it, because I want to show you what it prints out. But if you're just in a hurry and you want to go ahead and install those 11 packages, you can do that. So let's go ahead and Sudo Apt Upgrade. And after it checks a few things, you will see a couple things print out here. First of all, it'll tell you how much space is required to use for this upgrade. It also sometimes, not always, will list things that are now obsolete, and it'll say you can do Sudo Apt Auto Remove to remove them. And then you can do Y or N to continue the upgrade. So let's go ahead and hit Y and do those upgrades. Now this step is optional. And this is the auto remove that it talked about. This isn't actually part of the upgrade process, but since it printed it, it's a good time to tell you that if you do this once in a while, it can actually free up some substantial space on your computer. The upgrades leave files behind, and they add up over time. They can be several gigabytes. So just so you can see what this does, we'll do Sudo Apt Auto Remove. And now you can see it will tell you what it's going to remove, and it'll tell you how much space that takes up. So you'll free that much space. That's 360 megabytes of disk space. A fair amount of space. Now, I don't do this every time I do an upgrade. I probably do it every couple of weeks or so, just to keep it clean, keep my computer running smoothly. But I do it to clean things out every now and then. The reason I don't do it all the time is because it keeps my system more stable. If there was a boot failure or something like that, it has these files to refer back to. If you take them out, things might break. So I recommend not doing it all the time. But I'm going to go ahead and do it now for the sake of demonstration, and you can see it works just like the upgrade, except for this one removes unnecessary old files. Okay, now that that's done, we've done all of the Ubuntu mainline update and upgrade stuff. But there's more now. So it turns out that there are things called Flatpaks and snaps and app images that come with modern Linux systems, which didn't used to come with them before. In Pop OS, Flatpaks are integrated right out of the box. So let's say I wanted to install Signal here. You see, there's actually two options. I can install the Flatpak, or I can install the Debian file. You see, I have the Flatpak installed. I have the option to uninstall it. Because of this, Flatpaks actually are distributed through a completely different way than apt, so you have to update them separately. So how do we do that? Pretty simple. We just do Flatpak update. One thing to note about Flatpaks is they're installed on the user itself, and they're user specific. So you don't need to be a root user in order to update them, but you do need to install them on every user that needs them as well. One other thing I'd like to note is with Flatpaks, you can also automate this process with a -y, just like you can with the upgrade. Again, I'm not going to do that, so we can look into this with more detail, but if you're in a hurry and just want to update your Flatpaks, that may be the way to go, so you don't have to interact with your terminal at all. So let's go ahead and do this. Now you see we have nothing to update. That's great. What would end up happening if we did have something to update is it would just be like your upgrade process. It would ask, do you want to continue or do you not want to continue? And you'd do Y for yes and N for no. All right, so there's one more thing that I want to talk about, and that would be snaps. Now, snaps were not in the previous build of Pop! OS, but they're in this one. And I'm unhappy about that decision because I actually don't like snaps at all outside of a server environment. Now, they're really useful if you have to spin up lots of servers and you just need to install a whole web system. You can do it with a single command with snaps, where you'd have to spend hours building a template machine, basically, that you could then clone without snaps. Now, the downside of snaps is that they're not really open source. Now, a lot of things in snaps are open source, and you can go audit that, but the problem is I have no way of knowing if the snap service actually doesn't add anything or not, because snap itself is not open source. I can't audit what they do to those packages. I can't audit what those packages have in them anymore. And for me, that's a big problem and why I don't like them. Now, there's lots of videos out there about how to disable snaps, and if you'd like me to make one, I can do that. Just let me know in the comments. Snaps don't really need interaction from you. Snaps will automatically update themselves. Every time the computer does its automated upgrade sequence, snaps will check for updates. I wanted to mention them, though, because a lot of people may not know that they're actually there, and you may want to disable this, or you may want to utilize it more. You can install things from snaps right here on Pop! OS, and I just wanted to draw your attention to it. One last thing I wanted to teach you is a command line trick. Now, anyone who's used the command line for a while knows this, but newbies may find this really useful. I did years and years and years ago when I was a newbie, and I figured out that you could do this. So all of that updating that I did can be done automated through this command right here. So we have sudo apt update, and then we have a space and 2 ampersands. And this allows us to issue another command on the same command, and they will issue in sequence. So we do sudo apt update, and then we do sudo apt upgrade with the -y flag, so it does it automatically, and then 2 more ampersands, and then flatpak update, and then the -y, so it does it automatically. So if we run this, here's what happens. There we go, all done, no interaction. So this is a really nice command to know how to do, because now you can update everything and just go grab a cup of coffee. Now, since I had all things updated already, it didn't take very long, and you don't see much printed out, but you would actually see everything printed out that it did if I had a lot of updates to do. All right, so this has been my rundown of how to update things from the terminal. I wanted to go into a lot of detail. This is really for newbies, although maybe some people who aren't newbies learned a few new things. But I wanted to give detail so that people aren't intimidated and they see what's actually going on. It's really not that hard to do this, and I think a lot of people, once they learn how, they never switch back. I don't even remember the last time I've used the pop shop to update things, except maybe if I'm trying to install a specific driver and I don't want to look for it and it's just right there in the pop shop. That might be one reason, but I hardly ever do that. I almost always interact with these sorts of things from the command line because it's just more precise. I can see what's going on. I have more control over it. Hopefully you found this informative. Make sure to follow us on LBRY, Odyssey, or BitChute. Send us a tip if you feel so inclined. We're trying to grow our channel some, so we'd really appreciate it. As always, thank you for watching the Linux Guy, and we will see you in the next one.